Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another Team Talk live here on LinkedIn and YouTube. My name's Andy Dunn. I'm Team's Managing Director. And for those of you that are not team members and haven't heard of us before, we're the UK's largest network of independent recruitment businesses. And we provide platforms for recruitment founders to connect, collaborate, save money, and make money together. And today we are delighted to be doing a one-off first with Jeremy Snell, who's Team's L&D ambassador. Good afternoon, Jeremy.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to be here. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to this.
First time ever, Jeremy, we're doing this live. So Jeremy is Team's Learning and Development ambassador. He's been in the Team network in one capacity or another for the last 16 years. And for the last 18 months, Jeremy's been doing bespoke L&D learning sessions for team members on private Zoom meetings. But today we've changed the rules and we're going live on LinkedIn for the first time with a talk on how to increase monthly revenue with one key metric. Jeremy, do you want to give a bit background to this presentation and let us know what we're looking forward to?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, it's nice to be let out of the cage. We're in the public domain. This is an opportunity for people to maybe take a recalibration and a refresh as to their approach to how they onboard clients, onboard jobs. I appreciate that times have been tough for many. It just doubles down the importance of making sure that every opportunity that you have to make money, i.e. a job, you do everything that you can to fill it. And what I intend to share are some tactics and some thought processes that will help recruiters to recognize just how much is in their control when it comes to being able to predict, will this or will this not convert into a placement?
Perfect. Amazing summary. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So please do put any questions that you have for Jeremy in the chat in real time, and I'll try and get them answered at the earliest point. But without further ado, Jeremy, should we kick off the presentation?
Yeah, let's do that. So hi, everyone who's here. If you're watching this as a recording, great that you also managed to track this down and find it. In terms of what I'm going to do, I'm going to get up on screen some slides. The slides are intended to help us to have a bit of focus in terms of the ideas, but more than anything, it's the processing that you go through in terms of the context of this. What I share is content. What you as an individual need to translate is the context in your business as to what this means for you. So that might mean that you are processing this as a temps consultant, you're processing this as a perm consultant, you're processing this in a world where you work on a contingent basis, or perhaps you're processing this with the idea of moving forward to becoming more retained in terms of your model. It is relevant for all of those people. The important thing is that if you have questions that will help you to be able to process the content in the context of your market, take to the chat, ask a question, and I'll do everything that I can to give as much color as possible to make it easy for you to be able to implement it. So let me get my presentation up on screen. Here we go. Start the presentation. I'm less happy with that. Happier with that. Okay, good. I can still see you, Andy. I can see my presentation. So look, we're going to look at how to increase monthly revenue with one single key metric. The metric that I think is the most important at a desk level in recruitment right now, it's the fill rate of jobs. If the flow of jobs has reduced over the last 6, 12, 18 months, insert time frame, it becomes more and more important we focus on ensuring we fill the work and we capitalize on the opportunities that are presented to us. And I'm sorry to say this, what I also see happens in markets like this is standards drop. People make compromises. They decide to work with a client that normally they wouldn't. They decide to take on a job that is outside of their normal area of focus, and it takes longer to convert, if it converts at all. Now's the time to be really clear on what is your market, who do you deal with, and what does a good job look like? Much of what I will share here, I have no doubt they will be nodding and I know this. Knowing it isn't the same as being able to say, I consistently do this. And this is your opportunity to close the gap between what you know and what you do. So if we look at the number one metric, the fill rate, conversion rates are Conversion rates are an indication of many elements of performance. The foundation stone for good quality conversion is how we onboard the client. The industry average seems to hover at around 25% in terms of fill rate. I've seen extremes that revolve around the industry average. I know businesses who fill more than 98% of the jobs that they work on. I know businesses who fill less than 10% of the jobs that they work on. And much of this is driven by the decisions that they make in real time at the moment that they say yes. So how we qualify out, this is what drives the success ratio. It's not qualifying it in. In difficult markets, in challenging times, it's easy to compromise. It's easy to convince ourselves, go on, give it a go. You'll be good. It'll be fine. It's something more enjoyable to do than BD. But it could lead to frustration, and frustration then leads to resentment, and resentment leads to the dark side. So it's important that as we qualify things out, we know what is fillable and therefore what isn't fillable. And we are qualifying jobs against that definition for our business, not someone else's business, not a generic business, but for your business. And I'll share with you things that I think should be part of your algorithm. It's for you to decide how strong should it be in that algorithm. Job qualification in its own right is a very solo moment. You might work in a business of 100 people. At that moment, you are being instructed by the client. You are alone. It is you and the client. It is you who is making decisions based upon the answers to your questions. It is you who is making decisions about will I or won't I ask this, push for this, accept this. And because it is a solo moment, you are the chief accountability officer for the quality of jobs on your desk. And it may be that there are colleagues in your business who outperform the industry average and outperform the company average. And there may be those who don't. And that all revolves around how willing they are to step up to taking on the role of being the chief accountability officer. Because there are 4 things that are totally in our control. And one of them is what we are willing to accept. And when you are willing to accept less than you used to accept in the past, based upon your definition of a good job, you compromise yourself in the future. And if you work on having an easy now to onboard the job, you'll have a difficult end to the process. If you make it more challenging at the point of instruction, you make the end process so much easier. Andy, are you happy with how I'm describing this? What does this make you think when you reflect on?
It's making me go back in time and giving me flashbacks of working on a sales floor earlier in my career, and having a power hour in the morning, and the sole purpose was to pull as many jobs as possible by hook or by crook, and without spending any real time on the clarification of what makes them good.
Yeah.
So I think the more experience you have, I think the more refined it's going to be for your actual metric and what you define as a proper job. But I think that's great. I mean, what do you think from your experience a healthy fill rate would look like here, Jeremy? Is it as an average of 25%?
Healthy? Healthy for me would be north of 40%. Like to actually feel as though there is viability in what is being done. Good is more likely to be north of 50%, and totally attainable, even in a contingent world, even with competition from other agencies, 60% should be possible.
Amazing.
Some of those may feel aspirational. Some of those may already be being achieved. But even if we're hitting 60%, there's an opportunity to go to 65, to 70, to 75. And I would recommend that anyone who's here now, like if you work out what is your average job flow and what is your average conversion, work out what impact would improving your conversion by 20% have, and then start to think about how much more time you could have to work on those jobs if you had better indicators that you shouldn't have worked on the ones that you didn't. Does that make sense?
Makes a huge amount of sense, yeah.
Because if you fill 60%, you don't fill 40. And the time that you spent not filling 40 could have been spent wowing the 60% or finding more that look like the 60%. And that's a very shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of reflection. But that's a reflection I would recommend people do at the end of every quarter. Look back at the fill, the not fill. Look at the time that was invested. Look at the time that got sacrificed, and think about, in a shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of way, what would be a different outcome. And then we can take command. And as we take command of things, we are the recruitment consultant, right? This is our job title. We're here to consult. So we need to invest time in qualification. There are still people out there today who instruct recruitment agencies by email, throwing them a job description as if it is a biscuit to a dog. And we shouldn't be grateful for that, right? Because they're not actually giving us a biscuit. They're taking away our emotional attachment to what we do. They're taking away our resources that look like time, energy, and focus. And ultimately, it becomes a sacrifice. So it's important that we invest the time in the qualification. And I feel it's important we share with the end client. We see this as an investment for you as the customer, not simply an investment for us. It's not so that I can fill the job. It's so that you can hire with accuracy. If you tell them, let's spend half an hour on this so I can fill it, that's a bit me. Let's invest 30 minutes here so that you can secure the right person with the right skills and get on with growing your business. There's some framing that's required to make sure that the client sees we're investing in them rather than ourselves. And as we collaborate like that, we recruit the client early. We can't do this on our own. They can't do it on their own, which is why they came to us. It is a joined up effort to help them to be able to find, secure, and retain the right people. And if we can agree a timeline with them early and set the next conversation, I share with a lot of team members the acronym FAMBAM, and so many message me saying what a game changer FAMBAM is for them. Finish a meeting, book a meeting. Finish the meeting of taking the job and then book the next meeting to talk about progress. You'll be surprised at some of the excuses that clients have to not be willing to talk to you again until their CVs. That has got to be a red flag. So as we get better at ensuring that we always finish a meeting by booking the next, I finish taking in the job, I book the next meeting. I turn up to give them the progress report, I book the next meeting. I do the next meeting, I book the next meeting. There will always be a future meeting scheduled with a client that's given me a live job, temp or perm. And because the meeting is always scheduled for the future, I'm in command, and the client feels in control because they know where we're going. They know when the next checkpoint is going to be. And when they feel in control and their perception is I'm in command, I must be a good recruitment consultant. So the real selling begins at the point of instruction, helping the client to understand the timelines, the processes, and the work that is going to be done to help them to be able to achieve their goal. I prefer the word command than the word control. I want the client to feel the control so they have predictability, but they recognize that I'm the person who's in command, which is why they're choosing to pay me. Oh, nice, right? I hope everyone's with me in the way that I'm describing this. If you're here and you're writing notes or nodding along and you've got any questions, right? Chuck me a question. I'm more than happy to deal with questions as we go on the fly, right? It's one of the barriers that I hear from recruiters is clients don't always have time to brief me. They do have time to brief you. They're choosing not to give you the time because they see it as a sacrifice. They have 40 hours in their working week, notionally, right? They have time to brief you. You're not going to take 41 hours. They're choosing to protect their time because they see it as being a sacrifice. Because perhaps what they're used to is recruiters asking them questions where the answers are in the job description. So what's the point in verbally telling you what's in the job description? Why don't I just email you the job description? And if you've got any questions, you can ask me. And that's when they disappear. Because we'll always have questions when the job description comes through. So we may as well ask the questions that we know aren't going to be in the job descriptions to start to show them the level of investment that we're making to support the process. I got a bit excited then.
I think it's also, Jeremy, like the lack of providing the case studies of how this works with clients when doing the initial briefing call and taking that requirement on.
True.
I've been in that scenario as well, where you get the CV, you get the job descriptions just fired across either through a portal or through email, and it's just like, just find candidates. Like, we don't have the time to actually speak about the intricacies of that role and
Yep.
why they need a recruiter to actually find it.
Yes.
So I think, the more you do this, the more you do this with your clients, the more meetings that you're booking in your fam bam, scenario, you build up that picture. You can build up that case study of how you actually work with your clients and just only stick to it.
Correct. So true. And that whole, if they're looking for arm's length, chuck out that job description, just send me some CVs. That's the client who would happily see you replaced by AI. And the recruiter who gets involved with it will be the recruiter who gets replaced by AI, because there is nothing taking place that actually creates the value of the human interaction, because the buyer doesn't want it and the recruiter isn't selling it as being a better option. So both of them will end up saying at some point we're under pressure here because AI is taking our jobs. Felt like Nigel Farage saying that. I shouldn't say that, should I? If we look at what the right jobs look like, so in terms of what the right job is, it's got to be fillable. And experienced recruiters have got inside themselves, it's quite a large gland. I think it's near the pancreas that helps them to be able to assess fillability. Gut feel goes, dude, you've got this one. You can even think of a candidate and you know that they're looking. Get off the phone, call them now. So our assessment of fillability happens really quickly, but what we don't necessarily do is share with the client enough what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, so that they know that it's fillable with us too. Does that make sense? So we go off to take action and we miss things. The components in the algorithm of fillability, today it starts with, do we have an attractive job, i.e. can we sell it? And is the process designed to help to hire rather than make it more difficult? So as we assess the attractiveness of the job, we're really thinking about, what am I selling here as a story? What is the brand that I'm working with? What can I share that starts to highlight to people, if you are looking today and you have dissatisfaction in your role, which is probably around 35% of people in jobs today, then they will be very tuned into, is it my definition of better? So we need to have something that we can package as attractive, and we need to make sure that the process has been agreed as to how the client will go about filling it. And again, it may be a temp assignment for 2 weeks. We still need to be able to show people why it would be something that would be worthwhile for them to invest their 2 weeks in. And there still needs to be a process that helps us to be able to fill it quickly. And sat behind that is urgency and impact. How urgent it is that the client fills it, and the impact of making a good hire. And when we think about the impact of a good hire, and they start to imagine the outcomes that aren't taking place today that a good hire could start to create, it helps to drive that sense of desire. So when there is urgency, there is required need, and there is a desire to get it right, you glue those two things together, that's what's going to help you to be able to have the undivided attention of this client. And if we have an engaged decision maker, and I reference them as a decision maker, it doesn't have to be a hiring manager. There are some very in tune, savvy internal recruiters. If they are making decisions in part of the process, they become a decision maker. And if they're engaged, i.e. they have chosen us, rather than out of necessity, they're forced to work with us, they're far more likely to pay attention to our advice. They're far more likely to be responsive. They're far more likely to be cooperative. And then the cherry on the top of the cake is commitment. If we'd have gone back 12 months, maybe 18 months, the stack that I'm sharing this in, commitment would have been on the top. We would have needed commitment more than anything else. Today, we need to make sure that we actually have a process that we've mapped. We've got the urgency and the impact decided, and a cooperative manager. Predominantly because what I hear and what I see is processes are taking longer, hesitation is rife, and people are being more cautious and more fussy about their hires. So we need to make sure that we've got the other elements in place to then decide, this is the level of commitment that I believe this job needs to ensure that I am the person who gets it across the line. So that you invest the right time in the right jobs to the right standard. Ooh, did I see a couple of questions, Andy? And any questions from you too?
You got a couple of comments saying
Yeah.
that if clients, they can't communicate how important their fill rate, or so if they can't communicate what their fill rate is, then your fill rate's going to be very low. And we've got Craig, who's a new member of team, saying if the client has no time to brief, I don't have time to invest. It's as simple as that.
Correct.
You know, I think it's important. I think my question on these, Jeremy, is those 5 bullet points that you've got there on the screen. You know, would you strike each one as an immediate red flag if it was on the, you know, if the fillable rate, if it's an unattractive job, if there's no urgency, like which would you put in a score of most important versus least important when taking your briefing calls?
So this is where it becomes a little more bespoke based upon the desk and the business. So if we take these elements and we take them as being all of equal importance, and we then look back over the last 90 days at our fill rate to look at what did go in and what didn't, and what were the contributory components to either it did or it didn't happen in this list, then we can start to create weighting. In terms of me looking at this list right now, based upon the array of clients that I work with, I think that urgency, followed by process, followed by engaged decision maker, followed by attractive, followed by commitment, would be the order that I would stack it. Commitment is overrated. And because it is overrated, there is this clamor to say this is an A-grade job because it's retained. Yeah, but if it's ugly and the process is 22 steps and there's no urgency to actually fill it, and the decision maker themselves is a bit come see, come saw about whether they hire because they're looking for a job themselves, why did you retain it? Because now you've got an albatross around your neck.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were chasing the trophy of the retainer rather than the modesty of the fill rate, perhaps you'd have made a better decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, commitment is muy importante, whilst compared to the other things, it's the final consideration. It's the master nail in the coffin of fill, but it doesn't actually hold the lid on.
And how long would it take just stay on that one last question, how long would it take a recruiter to have those defined questions ready for when they're taking their briefing? Is it something you think they build up over time, or is it someone they work with someone like yourself, Jeremy, to put together for their business?
Yeah, look, I think that once somebody starts to define their own algorithm for their business, that algorithm will probably serve them for between 3 to 6 months before they need to check in on the algorithm again. If they decide urgency is up at the top, then make sure that you've got your clarity on what are the questions that assess urgency if it is the most important factor. And build your questions and use the market and your experience to help you to be able to refine that. The questions, I actually find that building, so the next thing that I wanted to show is a scoring system, right? I feel that building the scoring system then helps to create the questions. So if you picture those elements of the algorithm, the 5 bullet points, then the autopsy of success and the autopsy of failure, we can now see what were the contributory components to wins, what were the contributory components that held back jobs that we worked, and we must have taken it on thinking there's a chance, and now it didn't. What was it that stopped it? And maybe it was a sign-off thing, maybe it was a change of management, something happened that either was going on that we were unaware of, or we were aware of, but we didn't recognize the impact that it could have in the future. Like it went off like a hand grenade. So as we review that and we do the autopsy, we can then create our scoring system. And the scoring, the more sophisticated you get, the better it serves you. So I did some scoring work with a team member earlier this year. It was a business who had a team member, right? So the numbers, kind of wet finger in the air, approximately. They had been achieving 40 to 50% as a fill rate. And then over the last, say, 12 months, it had started to slide and had got to being as low as 35%. Some of that was due to compromise. Some of that was eye off the ball. We did some work to develop a scorecard, and having developed the scorecard and then stress tested it in the field, fill rate went to 80%. And the fill rate went to 80% because we had a sophisticated scorecard rather than a binary scorecard. Like a binary scorecard, is it urgent? Yeah. No. Right? Binary. And when it's just 1 or 0, it doesn't really help, do you know? And we can all make out that something is urgent just because, well, they phoned me at 5 to 9 in the morning, so it must be really urgent. So when we seek the excuses to justify, we're not qualifying out, we're qualifying in. So a sophisticated scorecard. If we take an example like urgency, be ready, people. There are words coming. I apologize for the amount of words that will next be on screen. I just want to highlight the sophistication of what a scorecard could look like. So we're taking urgency. This is an example of a real scorecard. We have a score which goes from -5. So -5 points, unknown level of urgency, unqualified beyond, ASAP start. And we all know that an ASAP start always ends up being highly. It'll score -1 if the client has no urgency to fill the role, no start date has been agreed in principle, the workload isn't significant enough to make a hire immediately, but would hire if the right person appeared. And this can change frequently. And I'm sure we've all met managers who've said, we're looking for the right person, we need to hire as soon as possible, but we're willing to wait for the right one. Right? So they're in conflict with each other. Which one is it? Is it urgent or not urgent? And then we have a score of 1, low level of urgency, a score of 3, role is being covered internally by the team, it's not sustainable for the team's well-being or the quality of work for the role, start date possible in the next 6 weeks. And then 5, high degree of urgency. So because we've now got a more sophisticated scoring system from -5 to +5, because we decided this was high in the weighting, it needed to be extremes in the scoring. Does that make sense? Because if it ends up being committed, fully committed and retained, and that gets 5 points, but it's got -5 points for unknown level of urgency, but we've sent an invoice for the first payment, we might find we're still working on it in 120 days time. And that promise of a 10 grand fee spread over 120 days doesn't feel very profitable. So as we look at the algorithm, we do the autopsy of what we've done. We post-mortem success, we post-mortem failure. We see where are the contributory components most consistent in success and failure. We now create a scorecard. And then from this, Andy, the questions reveal themselves. So the questions actually become easier to create when we actually look at what is the evidence that highlights varying degrees of urgency. And I'm totally comfortable that someone may be looking at this going, well, that's not right for my desk. I know, we didn't build it for your desk. But what we did do was create something that was entirely appropriate based upon postmortems to be able to say this. And that's what created the significant change in the outcomes from 35% to 80%. Because it was exactly right for them.
Did they do that, Jeremy, with their, sorry to interrupt, did they do
fine.
that with their existing clients that they were working with, or did they trial this first with new business development calls and new clients?
Like there was a portfolio of jobs that already existed, everything got rescored. And the scoring system, so because there was 6 contributory components, which had varying degrees of weighting in terms of scoring, the maximum score that a job could get, I think from memory, was like 36 points. And the minimum it could get was like way down in the minuses. And then for simplicity, we said if it's in this zone, it's gold. In this zone, it's silver. It's it's bronze. We rescored some of the jobs, and some of the jobs that they had as gold turned out to be silver on the new system, and some of the ones that they had that were silver turned out to be gold. So it just helped to create a reprioritization of existing work, an opportunity to do some requalification where it was required to help to be able to bottom things out, and just made a more robust process for onboarding new work as it came towards them.
Did they communicate what they were doing with their existing customers and go through the scoring mechanisms with them, or did they keep that inside the business?
That was case by case. On occasion, it was worth sharing to say, there's a couple of things here that if you made some amends, could start to create a greater access to our resources. If we could look at this with a little bit more scrutiny, if we could improve this with a little bit more scrutiny, I feel we'll have something that we could put more of our marketing collateral in to help you to be able to secure somebody. So it's kind of advisory without it being, dude, you're silver. You need to sort your game out with your interview process to be gold. Otherwise, I'm not interested. Which may have been like useful language, I don't know, 2022 when it was raining jobs and, you know, but less so today, right? So this example, picture that scaled over 6 different components. Picture this in a way that it now creates a job order form with a set of questions that actually by the end of the form, you can make a decision as to what does it score, and then decide if there is a place I need to influence this, where is it, to help the client to make it more fillable. Which gives us a really nice list of an action plan. So summarizing many of the things that I've already said, post-mortem success and failure, identify your predictors of failure and predictors of success. And then from that, build out the components that make your algorithm. Build a scoring system and the associated workflow that goes with it. The more sophisticated your scoring system, the better. It's very easy to initially say, well, that's easy, Jeremy. We do gold, silver, and bronze. But if it doesn't have a scoring behind it, it becomes very subjective. If it has a scoring system behind it, it becomes far more definitive and far more objective to help to be able to create the associated workflow. This is what we do for gold. This is what we do for silver. This is what we do for bronze. And build partnerships with clients. Ultimately, you both want the same thing. You both want to fill the job with the right person in the right timescales. That is the one thing to make sure there is an agreement on at the very beginning. It could even make a really nice agenda. Hey, before we go through this in more depth, let's make sure that we're both in the same place. I feel we both want the same thing. We want to make sure that this gets filled, but with the right person in the right timescales. And if we have an agreement on that, it's the beginning of the collaboration. If it doesn't feel as though we've got agreement on the goal, it's probably not a job. So with those action plans, I think there's some good stuff for people to get stuck into. So let me hit this. Hey, look, it's gone. What does everyone think, people? Those of you who are here, do you have any questions for me that I can help you to perhaps bring this to life a little more?
Yeah, we'd love to see these in the chat if you want to put any questions in now. Well, I suppose this time of year, Jeremy, coming into September, we've got approximately, 90, 95 working days, I think, left of the year. Is this the kind of thing that someone could build into their business towards the back end of 2025, going to start the new year with a completely new, fresh view on how they qualify and score their jobs? Or is it something that they should do like immediately?
Now, in 90 working days, it'll be the 10th of January. 90 calendar days, I think we get to the 10th of December. Like it doesn't, it feels a long way off Christmas. But you think how quickly the year's gone. And this is such a critical success factor. I feel an MOT of how you actually score and make predictions is the most important thing to kick September off with, because it gets busy. Or one hopes you'll get busier, which will be in line with your activity.
Yeah.
But one hopes we'll get busier. And it might be an investment of 3 hours. 3 hours that could be blocks of 60 minutes. 60 minutes to do the autopsy of the unfilled jobs.
Yep.
60 minutes to do an autopsy of the filled jobs. 60 minutes then to start to create the weighting that is associated with the components that contribute to success and failure. And then that's parked. And then we can build a scorecard. And the scorecard might take another 60 minutes. Or alternatively, drop me a message. I can ask you some questions and I'll go and do all of the work of those 60-minute blocks and come back and say, here's something that I would recommend. Like, you could outsource it. And if you outsource that and your average fee is £6,000 and you improve your fill rate by 20%, the cost of the outsource is the least of your worries, you know. There'll be gratitude from your bank manager.
And your spouses.
Yes, and your kids, because Christmas presents will be so much better. Yes. So I do feel now.
Yeah.
And that's not just like you work in L&D and you would be like, go, let's go. No. It's like now because it's the beginning of September. We're in a transitionary phase. We've gone from the holidays and the excuses to what should feel like it is ramp up and go.
Yeah.
And if we're go and we're running up the beaches and we look down and we thought that we had a rifle and it turned out to be a large cucumber, we're going to be in trouble. So let's make sure we've got the kit that is appropriate for the season. Yeah, and do something with it.
Yeah. So I suppose there's no questions coming in here. So I think that we'll come to a logical close here. But before we finish, we'll share that. So obviously Jeremy speaks at a lot of our regional networking events. There's a couple of dates that we wanted to share with everyone. So Jeremy's going to be in the Team London regional networking event. Interesting you say 10th of December just then. It's the 11th of December.
Okay.
In London at Marsh Commercial. So Jeremy there be doing a live there face to face. And then he's also at the Recruitment Agency Expo in Birmingham in October, which is coming up. So Jeremy, you're doing a presentation called Building a Performance Culture.
Indeed. Yes.
Can you talk yet?
Have I written it?
Yeah.
God, no. Ask me the day before and I'll probably be just chewing it over.
So that's day one at Rec Expo, Birmingham. So definitely make sure you're there. Yeah, what time are you on? Is it?
Rec Expo 1:30. Vantage? No. What room am I in?
Is it?
Yeah, maybe the Vantage room. Vantage stage. Anyway, yes, I'll be there. I'll be giving a presentation. I'll be there for the entire day. Good opportunity to track me down. I'll be carrying packs of recruitment playing cards. So if anyone wants to grab a deck of playing cards, come find me. The price is we have to have a conversation and just like get to know each other. But yeah, look, I'm not a magician, but I do carry playing cards.
Wonderful. Well, that was a great session. And for any team members that are watching this live, you can obviously access all of Jeremy's prior 16, 17 sessions, monthly sessions now that are stored in the Team Hub. And obviously non-team members that are watching this, if you're interested in joining team, please reach out to Kim or Lauren or drop a message on the team's website. We'll get in touch with you, have access to these amazing L&D sessions. But thank you so much, Jeremy. That was really, really great session today. Really enjoyed it. And we look forward to seeing you at another team event real soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you very much for the invite. And if anyone does have any questions about any of the things that I've shared, team members, you know where to track me down. Non-team members, you can track me down through Team or you can find me directly on LinkedIn. But either way, I'm genuinely here to ensure that there is enough value that you can do something with this. So if you've got questions, ask.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.